Hood's breath. This book, it's got me all over the hooding place. Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Through the Pages with Dee. So, Deadhouse Gates, finished it finally. Took me a while. I did struggle a little bit with some of the battle scenes, which I think some people do. But yeah, I got through it, and I enjoyed it. Let's just say that I enjoyed it. What can you say? All you can literally say is that Stephen Erickson's work so far that I've read, Gardens of the Moon, Deadhouse Gates, they are a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece. Now, before I go any further, because of what I'm going to talk about in this video, I am going to review the book, but I also want to touch on something. So I'm going to put a trigger warning out there just in case, because if there's anybody out there who doesn't want to hear any talk of essay, I'm just putting out a trigger warning there, because through reading one of the characters' stories, it relates quite a lot to myself. So I just want to put that out there because I do want to talk about that. I do want to touch on it. And what I mean by that is, so that's just a trigger warning. What I mean by that is Felicin. Felicin is your very first character that we get into. And it's from her point of view, right at the start, right at the kickoff of Deadhouse Gates. And she has come from a noble family. She's part of the Paran family, the House of Paran. Her brother was in Gardens of the Moon. He was one of my favourite characters. And she follows on the story of House of Paran in this book. Her sister Tavore has become the new adjunct, and it seems to Felicin that her sister has turned against and has gone over to the dark side, so to speak. And she's basically put Felicin in a position now where she's about to become a slave. For all intentions and purposes, that's how it looks on the cover of things. For quite some time, it looks that way. So I'm trying not to spoil her too much. But the reason why I want to talk about Felicin is because of this whole way that we kick off with her. And it's not too far into the book where we start to talk about the essay that's happening with Felicin. And there's a character called Bethin, and he is basically, Felicin is 15 years old. She's a 15-year-old character. And Bethin is a grown man, and he is taking somewhat advantage of Felicin for his own personal needs. And she believes that she is doing it to make Heboric and Bordins, who are two other characters. Heboric is an ex-priest. He's also a historian. And Bordin is what we are told is a criminal. I won't go too much into that because that turns out to be a whole different story, which again is really intriguing. But with regards to Felicin, she's doing what she's doing because she believes that she's in a way helping, but it doesn't seem as if she has much of a choice. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I've heard one or two potential ideas that she's quite annoying in how her attitude is towards Heboric and Bordin. And I just want to say that from my own personal experiences, and I am a survivor of SA, from my own personal experiences, I can relate strongly to Felicin because through my late teens and very early 20s, I was a child of SA, around 11. I can say that anger was the thing that I clung to. Now, what I mean by that is I was angry towards people around me, and I did tend to push people away, and I did come across as quite a horrible person. But that is how I dealt with my trauma. That's how I dealt with it. And I feel that we have to remember to a certain degree that that is potentially how Felicin is dealing with her trauma. She is finding a release in anger, maybe not necessarily to the correct people, as we can maybe see as we get older, and we can sort of not, I don't know the right words to put there, but when you've been through trauma and you come out the other end of it as a survivor. You can be affected in all different ways. And I just wanted to point this out because what I feel about this book is that Stephen Erikson has very much touched on human points in life. If you were to take out the magic, the dragons, those kind of elements from this book, it could quite easily be historical non-fiction, quite easily, because some of the things that he mentions as far as the battle and what Felisin goes through are quite real events, and I think that's what draws us in to this story, into Malazan, is that it's based on such reality that we believe that the fantasy elements of it, because it can be based on such reality. Certainly for me anyway, as far as Felisin's story goes, I wouldn't turn around and say it touched a nerve. What I would say is that I felt the realism of it. Didn't upset me. Didn't I didn't have a necessarily emotional reaction to it. I just felt that it was very, very true, a very honest account of what trauma can do to someone. And I just wanted to put that out there because, yes, we can feel compassion towards someone who's been through trauma, but without actually going through trauma, you wouldn't truthfully know how it feels. And I'm not trying to lecture, and I'm just saying that without actually experiencing it, you don't know how you're going to respond to it. And I feel that Felisin's account is very much true to my own account, that you tap into your anger and you may expel it onto the wrong people. I also felt that maybe, I could be wrong here, but maybe there was a touch of Stockholm syndrome that came apparent with Felisin. I don't know, I could be wrong. But in the respect that she still had feelings for Bethan. But maybe that's to do with the fact that she came from a noble family. So maybe to some degree she had this life of propriety, and she thought that, she deserved certain things because that's what she's come from. And then to justify it to herself, she continued to think that way with Bethan, that was a good thing, and he showed her love in some aspect. So I just wanted to say to start with, really, that I don't think Felisin's anger should always necessarily be looked at as, well, potentially she could be behaving like a little bit of a spoiled brat, or potentially she's taking it out on the wrong people, they've not hurt her. It doesn't work like that. Trauma doesn't work like that. Trauma comes out how trauma comes out. I'm no psychologist. My daughter's actually studying, my youngest girl is studying psychology at the moment. She'd be able to explain it far better than me. But from my own personal understandings, you can't dictate how you're going to react. There's a million and plus some different ways of how trauma can come out of you and how you can react. And, that's just how it is. So I just wanted to say that because it's obviously something that's close to me. And I just wanted to sort of, if I could, make her character a little bit more understandable, in relating it to myself and saying, I too was an angry person and probably gave anger to the wrong people. So I just wanted to say that. But I loved every character, every single character. I say I love a lot, don't I? I say I love this, but I do. I genuinely do. I loved a lot of characters. I'm going to keep it more light-hearted now. I just wanted to cover that. So I hope I've not upset anyone. I hope I've not made anybody feel awkward. That wasn't the intention. It was just maybe to say, if you are misunderstanding Felisin, or, maybe the trauma aspect of it, it's not quite being caught onto. That's my interpretation of it as a reader. And those are just my thoughts. And basically that's what this channel is for us to share our thoughts. So that's just me sharing mine. So that's where it starts. And we've got Haboric, ex-priest, historian. He's lost both his hands because he wanted to give up his religion. Then we've got Bardin, who's a criminal. So we're following that whole story. We've got Duiker, who is another historian. He's a present historian, and he's following Coltane's fight. And that's a great story. I struggled a little bit with that, but Coltane is the hero. He's just the hero, isn't he? He's the hero everybody wants because he's out there and he's doing everything he possibly can. And towards the end of Deadhouse Gates, I got huge flashbacks of Passion of the Christ. That's a lot. That was a lot. This whole book's a lot. It's a horror in aspects. It's a horror book. If you like horror and you like things dark, read this. Start reading Malazan. Start it. Because, yeah, if you like that kind of genre, if you like those elements all put into one book, Stephen Erickson's got it nailed. This is a masterpiece. I know just by 2 books in that this whole series is a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece. And his prose, it's almost Shakespearean. I know John Minton, if you watch this, you are going to love this when you get round to it. You are going to want to act this out. I have a feeling you're going to want to put this possibly into play form. It is a masterpiece. Then we've got Fiddler. So we go back to some of the Garden of the Moon's characters. Yay! I thought it was a whole new cast, but no, we've got some of the old crew there. So we've got Fiddler, we've got Crocus, we've got Apsalar, who was sorry, we've got Callum, or Calam, however you want to say it. And that's the point of view there on its own. So Fiddler is the 3rd point of view. So we've got Felisin, is the 1st point of view. We've got Duiker, he's the 2nd point of view. Then we've got Fiddler, the 3rd point of view. And as Fiddler and Callum are together, they actually separate. So then we get Callum's point of view as well. So now we've got 4. In total, we have 5 point of views in this book, which is quite a few less than Gardens of the Moon. And the last point of view we've got is Mappo's. But we've got Fiddler, we've got Crocus, we've got Apsalar, and we've got Callum to start with. And as I say, they get separated. And they're on this journey to get Apsalar back to her dad, or at least try and find her dad. They come across Mappo and Icarium at some point. So there's Mappo and Icarium. I'm not explaining myself very well. It's probably because of how I started and it's blah, blah, blah. But Mappo and Icarium. New characters, but new characters who I think everybody falls in love with. I think everybody falls in love with those 2 characters. There is just this, and I'm pretty certain it's been said in every single review video, these characters just have this bond. I'm not sure if there's more to this bond, that it's not just friendship, it's maybe more than that. Maybe from Mappo's point of view, it might be more than that. Because he's just been basically assigned to keep Icarium on a leash, so to speak, keep him under control, because Icarium is a destroyer. He's got some gifts, and if he wants to go full Hulk, he can go full Hulk and destroy a city. But he doesn't know, and he's lost his memories. And because of the bond that those 2 gain together, Mappo, instead of becoming his controller, becomes his very best friend and is all for protecting him and helping him and keeping him safe from himself more than anything else, from himself. And it's just the kindness between those 2. Even though this book is so graphic and horror filled, and there's things that if you have somewhat of a disposition where you don't like that, I don't advise that it's for you. If you don't like the full on reality of what things can actually be, I don't advise that it's for you. If you want to stay clear of that and you'd rather do the generalized epic fantasy, where it's a quest and there's beautiful magic and it's you've got your hero and just most things are beautiful. This isn't that. But it's still in the same breath. It is beautifully written, and it's so real. If you see an obvious thing here, it's because my mic died. So new mic. So as I was saying, So that's Mappo and Ikariam. They have a fantastic relationship, and I do think there's more possibly to that. But going back a bit to Duiker and Coltane, Duiker has to be there because he's the historian and he's going to write everything that happens. That's his job. That's the point. So he's there right in the midst of the battle, and eventually he actually becomes a soldier in himself. And there's a fantastic part where he gets a little bit of a chance to reap a revenge for somebody who's spoken down to him and not treated him very nicely. That's a great scene in the book. Felasin and Haboric end up on a journey. I won't mention too much about Borden. You'll have to read it to find out. Because I said I'm trying to do no spoilers because I really want this book to become a hit again, even though it's probably not a hit. Probably is still a hit, but it should be a classic, and it should be something that everybody wants to read. Everybody should want to read Malazan as a series because it's just outstanding. It's an outstanding piece of literature, and it will be around for many, many, many years to come. Fiddler comes out on his own. There's a whole storyline there with him and Crocus and Apsalar, and something we're led to believe that Apsalar is going to become something. Whether she does or she doesn't, you'll have to read it to find out, or read it again. Just go on the journey again if you've already read it. Going back to Mappo and Ikariam, because things are just coming to me as I'm talking. Page 3. Oh, give me a second. Page 690, I think it was. Yep, 690. Read that. Or if you pick up this book, if you've picked up Gardens of the Moon and you've read it, and you're now on Deadhouse Gates, just wait till you get to 690, page 690, where it explains in more detail the relationship between Mappo and Ikariam. I cried. I had to put the book down. I cried. I had to give myself a minute. Streaming tears. There's other characters included in this. There's Lady Gayson right at the beginning. She doesn't come to a very nice end. We don't learn much about Tiamba. She is the new adjunct to Tavore's bodyguard, maybe. But we don't learn too much about her just yet. But she's there. She's in there. Mappo is a Trell. I don't know what one of those is yet, but he's a Trell. And Ikariam is a half Jaghurt. I've yet to find out, unless I missed it where it was explained. Who else? Oh, Quick Ben makes another appearance. Quick Ben comes back. He's one of my favourites. I loved him in Gardens of the Moon. So pleased he comes back. Who else? Oh, the Samo Inath, the warlock, who was a warlock, and then everybody believed him dead, and then he comes back in the form of a child. And Coltane and Duiker are not so sure that he is who he's saying he is, so he has to prove himself, and he does. He does prove himself. It's just, I could go on and on and on about the characters, and the places and the map, and I could go on and on and on about all of that. But I think it's just one of those where you've got to read it. You've got to read it because it is so epic and such a masterpiece of literary that you just have to read it. I know it's just going to get better. I know things are just going to be explained to me in more detail. I can't wait. I have Memories of Ice for March at TBR. If I don't, because I've got a lot of books in March, I'm being a little bit ambitious with my March TBR. But I have read 8 books this February, borderline 8.5, because I have started another one now that I've read Deadhouse Gates, because I just continuously read. That's what I do. I just read. It might as well be my job at this moment in time. All I do is read. I just think it's worthy to be read. I think it's just worthy to be read. If you're going to read things such as Lord of the Rings or, the epic fantasies, Wheel of Time, why wouldn't you read Malazan? Why wouldn't you give Malazan a turn? There's novellas, I believe, within the Malazan story, but there's 10 books, 10 full novels. Read them. I mean, I don't think at my age I'm going to have much time to read them again. I'm getting older now and I have some health issues, so I don't really think I've got time left on this earth to go over and reread the Malazan. But that's why I take my time and make notes through this first time through, because I don't think I'll have time again. If I do, then I will. But there's always new books coming out and you always want to read them. And when you're a bookie, you want to read everything that's out there. You don't want to miss anything. So that takes up a lot of your reading capabilities. You don't necessarily have time to go back. If I find it and I do, then I will. Because it's one of those where I will go back to it. I'd love to go back to it and see if I have new thoughts about it. But just the characters who are the main POV characters, they take you on a journey. And it's not necessarily this all singing, all dancing, beautiful, sparkly, bird singing journey. There is a lot going on. A lot of it is sad. A lot of it is grim. Whether it's grim dark or not, that's up for debate. But it does seem like there's some hopelessness. But in the midst of that, there's also love and there's also camaraderie. And there does seem some elements, not necessarily towards who's going to win the fight, whether it's going to be the Empire, or it just seems like people have some elements of caring and love, and that makes things not seem so bad. Not everything seems so bad when you can have caring and love and compassion. And that's just who human beings are as a race. We have that within us. Whether we choose to touch on it or not is a different thing, but we have it within us. So yeah, I did already do this, and I did a lot more talking. It was a half an hour long video, but now I've forgotten everything that I said because it was all shooting from the hip. But just know that Stephen Erikson and writing characters, he's just a genius. He's a genius. I don't think there's any more that can be said for him. He's a genius. If he sees this, if he watches this, Stephen Erikson, Mr. Erikson, you are a genius. This is a masterpiece. Thank you for giving it to us. Thank you. It touches on everything that is possibly human, and it gives you time to think. And yeah. And who's going to win? Who's going to win the war? I don't know. Is anybody going to win the war? Is the Empire going to win with Empress Lysine? I mean, there's a great little scene with Empress Lysine and Callum, because he's all about killing her now. That's his intention. Callum wants to kill Lysine. And it was explained. I nearly forgot about that. It was explained who Lysine is. Maybe I missed that in Gardens of the Moon if it was in there. Don't think it was, but maybe I missed it. But it explains who she is. And as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Now I know who she, oh, right, and why this is happening. And okay, that makes sense to me. And that's to do with boarding as well. And there's the situation with Felisin and her sister Tavore isn't necessarily as cut and dry as you think it is. It's not necessarily a case of, Tavore's gone this way and Felisin's gone that way. And but Felisin still is hell bent on revenge towards her sister. Can she be blamed for that? Again, it's trauma, isn't it? So can she be blamed? I don't think so. I don't think she can be blamed for anything as a character, really. But eventually, there's a scene with boarding, which is very touching. It may well make you cry. Things happen to Hiboric, but Hiboric owes his life to Felisin, and he stands by her side. Felisin isn't just who she starts off as. Her arc becomes something else completely. And there's a nice little touch with the story from Crocus and Apsalar. There's a nice little thing that happens there. And the monkey, I think it's a monkey, I can't remember its name in the book. The Bast, I can't remember. He comes back and he's a help. But then there's a little which again, I'm not going to spoil. I'm really trying not to spoil anything, because you absolutely, and obviously only if you want to, if your curiosity is peaking, as mine did. I was going through booktube and I was seeing all these reviews and all these talks, especially from Philip Chase and AP, the Critical Dragon, and who else? Like Mike talked about it, and Jimmy talked about it. I was seeing all these conversations about Malazan, and I just thought, what is this? I haven't even heard of it. I've not been back into reading for very long. I only started last year, and I was never really a huge reader. I'd read every now and again, but I was like, I want to know what this is. There's all this about this Malazan, and I want to know what it is. No regrets, no regrets. So if you're curious, give it a go. Give it a go. Make your own mind up. But I would be surprised. Gardens of the Moon is one way or the other for most people, as I'm gathering. It's either you fall in love with that book or you're a bit, I'm not so sure. We would all say, as I've come to learn now, read out Deadhouse Gates, see how you feel then. Because Deadhouse Gates is still full on. It's still a full on story, but it's not quite as, and this and that, and now this and now that. And hey, what about some of this? That's what Gardens of the Moon is like. It's just go, go, go. But I loved it. I loved Gardens of the Moon is my favourite still. It's just go, 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 go. Whereas Deadhouse Gates is a little more controlled. It's a little more, okay, we have this group of characters and they're doing this. And we have this group of characters and they're doing that. And then so on and so forth. And then they're going to meet up with them. And then they're going to be doing that. And then they're going to meet up with them. And they're going doing that. It's much more paced at a rate that is cope withable and more understandable. I wouldn't say more enjoyable because I've enjoyed both books equally. But what I would say is, if you're curious and curiosity is piqued, just try Gardens of the Moon. And if you're still a bit, give Deadhouse Gates a go. It's not a small book by any means. It's not. It is a chonker, but it's worth every page. As is Gardens of the Moon. It's worth every page. And then, Memories of the Ice just gets bigger because clearly there's more to say, there's more to explain. And I'm excited for that. So as I say, that's on my March TBR, which now is at 9 books. I am highly ambitious and maybe slightly need help. Maybe I just need a cuddle. I don't know. But, on Friday, I'm doing my Friday wrap up for February, and I'll be doing my March TBR on Friday. I like to do three videos. I can't even get my words out. 3 videos a week if I can. So Fridays is February wrap up of the books I've read, and March's TBR. So Memories of Ice is in there, but I have other books as well that I want to read. And don't think for 1 minute I'm going to be forgetting about Malazan. It's impossible. It's impossible to forget Malazan. I've read 8 books in February, Gardens of the Moon being one of them, Deadhouse Gates being at the end of that month, and I still remember every single character from Gardens of the Moon. So I highly, highly doubt, not just memory-wise, but with notes, that I'll be forgetting anytime soon who any of these characters are, because that's the beauty of it. It's so impactful. It's so well written. It just stays. It just stays. Okay, you may forget some of the sub-characters, but it just stays because it impacts. It makes such an impact. Stephen Erikson, you are a genius. If you see this, and I've been told you may, if you see this, please know from the bottom of my heart, you are a genius. This is a masterpiece. Your Malazan works, as far as I have read, but I think they all probably will be, are a masterpiece. And on that, after this being the second round, because my mic died, and I hope this one's still got the little green light. Didn't even spot the light, so I've had to do this again. I'm going to go. So look out for Friday's video. I hope I've not offended anybody within this video with my talk at the beginning. It's just my personal opinion on Felicin. I have some experience in that area. Me and Felicin, it felt like we was talking about the same person, other than the circumstance. Felt like the same person. I just felt like I needed to maybe give a different perspective. And yeah. So thank you if you stayed to the end. That's great. Right here. Got the feels if you stayed to the end. Down here is the like and subscribe buttons. Press on the like, press on that subscribe, press the bell, and then you'll know every time I upload. And it just helps my channel hugely. It just helps it grow massively. And that's what I want. I'm hugging you, see? We're having a hug. We're a community. We're feeling the love and we're having a hug. So come on over, join us. We can talk about all sorts. I've got some stuff coming up in March. Not necessarily fantasy, it's a bit more on the horror side. Because we like to throw in everything here. I may even bring in some thriller and some crime the next few months. So yeah, other than that, thanks for staying and have a great day. And I've been Dee, and this has been Through the Pages, and that's where I'll see you next time, is Through the Pages.